This is one of the very first panel sessions, and I'm really excited about this. Wherever you are at any point of your journey with Andela, whether you are in the ALC or you are in the Certified Talent Network and you are hoping to get on a client, or you just want to learn about growing and succeeding while working with clients or learning while working with clients, this is the place to be. Now, on the agenda for today, we'll be meeting our amazing panelists. These guys were specially curated and picked and recommended by the delivery team. They are doing amazing on their client engagement. And, they are here to share their journey. And I kid you not, you would learn a lot from them. So please ask questions, use the Q&A tab right at the bottom if you have any questions you want to ask while they share their journey, upvote questions that you would like to have answered as we move along. And this is going to be an amazing session. Now, after you get to meet the panelists and get to have an overview of their journey, we'll start off talking about charting the path from ALC. We know that the Andela Learning Community are on here, and we want you to be able to grow and learn from people who have been, working with, ALC as well. And then we'll talk about getting and navigating client interviews. So once you've been able to build your skills, once you've been able to learn, how do you present your value to clients? And how do you navigate those client interviews to get the job? And then once you start out with the client, learning never stops. So yes, you're going to be on, demand, working, impressing the client, but you also need to learn how to manage your time and also upskill. We have, people on this call who are going to share their journey about how they picked up new technologies while working on the client engagement and, impressing the client, and then growing and succeeding with Andela clients and even clients beyond, just learning how, to succeed. And like I said, we'll have a Q&A session right at the end. So stick around. It's a value-packed session. You do not want to miss any second of this. So first off, we're going to be meeting our amazing panelists. The banner has already shared, sneak peek of who's on here, but we'd love for you to get to know them on, a personal level, so to speak. First on our list is Lemaya Nakola. Now, fun fact, Lemaya actually started off his journey with Andela as an ALC mentor. And, he's been tutoring and learning alongside. He's the senior DevOps engineer Zen Business. Lemaya, thank you so much for being here. I'd love for you to just touch base, introduce yourself. How's your Andela journey been so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, Fergie. So, Lemaya Nakola here. My friends call me Lema. I am a senior DevOps engineer working with Zen Business at the moment. I am also, if there is such a term, an Andela OG. I started out back in 2017. So my first job was actually, my first professional job was actually with Andela. I have been working with Andela on and off. So that's like about 5 years now, helping businesses grow and also growing at the same time. Software engineering is like riding a bicycle. You only get better the more you keep on riding it. So yeah, I have been in LC2 as a member and LC3 and 4 as a mentor. So we'll get into that as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Namaya. Yes, we have a lot to learn from you. Like your journey all through and through is something we want to dig into as we start. So thank you for being here. And our next panelist is David Zitati. Fun fact, he joined Andela based off on a referral, and now he's been working with his client for over 2 years. Now, David started out with his client as an associate engineer, but has become a team lead. He's leading, the back-end team of Safaricom. David, it's amazing to have you here. Thank you for joining. Tell us more about yourself and, how your journey with your clients has been.
Thanks, Fiji. Hi, everyone. Yeah, name is David Sitati. I am currently a senior software engineer with Safaricom, which is an Andela client. I've been with the engagement for 2 years now, just over 2 years. And it's been it's been an amazing journey. And I do have a few tips that I would like to share with you guys with regards to client success. So looking forward to a great session.
Amazing. Yes, we definitely need to learn about those tips, how you grew from just being an associate engineer to being a team lead. I mean, everyone wants to grow in their journey. So thank you for volunteering your time to be here. All right. And next on our list is Edward Campbell. If you joined the community town hall, you may have already heard 1 or 2 tips that Edward has used to, work with Andela clients. Fun fact, I didn't tell you guys this before, but he has applied to 36 roles. And now he's working with his 3rd Andela client and, has done 10 interviews. Like, Edward, I give it to you. Your resilience, I mean, it shows your experience. And I'm not going to, talk so much about it. I'll let you introduce yourself and we'll dig into, all the good stuff during the session. So Edward, introduce yourself and tell us about your experience so far.
Yeah, thanks. So my experience so far has been awesome. Like as Fiji said, I have actually applied for jobs. I've actually been resilient. I kept applying and I was able to also get some few interviews. And aside just getting those interviews, I was also able to scale through most of those interviews to get multiple offers. But definitely I would love to share all of that. And I'm super excited to be here and hope to share as much as I can today.
Awesome. So, I mean, if you're in the group chat and you want to know how you present your best self and also ace interviews, please stick around. Edward will be sharing more about that as we move along. Our next panelist is Millicent. Millicent has over 7 years of working experience. And what's great about Millicent is she also works with David on Safaricom and leads a team of engineers. Now, she mentors junior engineers as she builds awesome products. Millicent, we're glad to have you here. Can we bring Millicent up on stage? Yes. Hi, Millicent.
Hello, everyone. Hello, as Peji has said, my name is Millicent Njuguna. I'm excited to share my Andela journey with you all. I have 7 years of experience and I've been working on amazing projects and amazing things. Looking forward to talking with you all.
Awesome, Millicent. I know that we have a great deal to learn from you, how you've managed, mentoring, delivering products, and also learning on your journey. So thank you for being here, Millicent. We're glad to have you. And our final panelist, Eduardo. Eduardo, has over 5 years of experience. Now, fun fact about Eduardo is he started off with this client not having the required skills, but he was able to learn new technologies along the way. And now, right now, what the client is saying is, we want to clone Eduardo. So, I mean, it's so amazing having you here, Eduardo. Can we bring Eduardo up on stage?
Hey guys, there's some problem with my camera. In backstage it was working and now it stopped working.
No worries. It's good we have a picture, so.
Yeah. Hi, Fiji. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast. For sure, it was challenging in the beginnings. It was bold for me to try, but you miss every shot you don't take, right? And although I couldn't be sure I would meet everybody's expectations, I'm now finishing my 8th month with Homebase, and I can say that my engagement has been pretty smooth. I'm excited to be here with you guys today and to share a bit of my journey with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you to our amazing panelists. Please blow up the chats. Thank them for being here. And I mean, it's amazing having this mix of amazing technologists on the call. We are so glad to have you here and we can't wait to learn from your Andela journey. And everyone on the call, please feel free to, ask questions along the way. If you can relate to anything that the panelist has said, you could ask your questions, and we are sure you're going to take away incredible knowledge from this call. All right, so we're going to start off with charting the path from ALC. Now, a lot of you on here are in the Andela Learning Community. You just started up picking up new skills, and who better than to talk to Lemayan? Lemayan has been a mentor. He has worked as a member and also, as a mentor. So he has a lot of knowledge, to share on, the ALC community. Now, Lemayan, I would love to ask you, how your journey, starting off from the ALC, building your skills and improving. And we have talents who are here, technologists who are here in the learning community. So how did you grow your skills to become a senior talent recognized by your client?
Thank you, Feji. So I will just quickly give you some background about myself and my interaction with the LC. I joined Andela in 2017, and my background was not from being a software engineer. I was actually still in school, studying a bachelor's in mathematics. And I remember what happened is I had to work full time, so I, quote unquote, I dropped out of school for about 2 years before I later rejoined and pursued a bachelor's in computer science, which I completed last year. Yay.
Wow.
Yeah, so before that, I can just tell you that in 2017, I can still recall it like it was yesterday. You join tech and you're very green, and you're hearing big words left, right, and center. You're here to learn, but also the learning itself is not proving to be the easiest of things. So what I can just say is it takes a lot of grit, especially in the beginning. Like you really need to put your best foot forward, because I remember spending a lot of time on tutorials that my friend actually came and told me that if you continue this way, you would get into what is called tutorial purgatory, where you're constantly just learning and relearning skills. But yeah, it takes different amounts of time for different kinds of people to be comfortable with different skills. So do not beat yourself too hard when you feel like, why is it taking too long for me? I mean, I started out with person X or person Y, and they look like they're really succeeding and dacing in this. Why is it not working for me? It takes different amount of time. So it takes grit and determination. And also my experience in LC first time as a member is you really get access to a lot of resources. And even more importantly, you get access to people. Do not ever underestimate the importance of people, because most of the things that I didn't understand from just reading documentation or going through tutorials, I easily got help from other people who are experts in the field, and they really demystify things because they have done or solved such challenges over and over again. So I can just tell you that my journey personally has involved a lot of people in my life helping me solve issues. And what I have learned over time is be nice to people, and then also don't be afraid to reach out. Just reach out, say, this might sound dumb, but I have this and that concern. Would you please help me journey through it, or really help me solve that problem? So, and that is why LC is a community. So take advantage of every community you have. It doesn't have to be LC. Any local community, international, open source. 2017 and 2018 are the years where I made the most open source contributions. Currently, I'm a senior engineer, but I barely make like 5 or 6. I have to feel some pain and just go and inspect the code base and just fix the problem that I was facing. But when you're starting out, it's like really important to get yourself out there, push yourself beyond your limits. Sometimes be hard, sometimes take a rest, but just get on there, get things going.
Awesome.
Yes.
I mean, your journey is so inspiring, starting out and then going back to school to read computer science. And there's one thing that, I took from what you just said about the value of community. People, they're there. You have people in the community who can, support you. And I mean, don't stop learning. Contributing to open source projects is very, very important in your journey, because that way you are on demand learning those things which you have, reading online or reading elsewhere. So that's really great to hear. Lemayan, I know that you have overcome so many challenges, when you started. But what would you say, would you pick out one challenge that you faced during your journey and that you believe that others on this call can relate to, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think the number one challenge all of us usually face is imposter syndrome. The feeling that you're not enough, or you're not doing enough. And I felt this the most when I got to my first Andela client, when I think that was back in 2018. I was working with little companies. And prior to that, 2017 was just, back then Andela had a simulations program, bootcamp, apprenticeship. It was just a lot of learning, and upskilling, working on internal projects. Then I got to my first client engagement. And my first feeling was I was probably oversold, because the client was like, here is our DevOps king. All the DevOps problems we've ever had. This is the guy. Lemayan is the guy to talk to. And all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, it's getting real. I'm just from learning, guys. I'm not king. Yeah, so you get to feel like you're not enough. And what I can just tell you is, it's not a bad thing to feel like that, because imposter syndrome actually pushes us to unleash the better version of ourselves. So it's about flipping the energies. Instead of feeling like, oh no, I'm not good. I feel like I'm being pressed down. You use that energy to say, yes, now I'm not good. Now I need to work to prove myself. So once you switch mentality and you now start working towards proving yourself, you really build a lot of confidence. That's what has worked for me in terms of overcoming imposter syndrome. And it's a vicious cycle. When you think you know it all, you change clients, you change roles, you get a more senior role, you have a team to manage, and you feel the feeling creeping in again and again and again. Yeah, so just flip energies, maintain positivity. But that's always number one. And I feel like at one point, regardless of whether you're in tech or not, you will feel it. If you will be in an environment that is challenging enough, you will feel like you're not enough. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's like my always number one challenge.
Oh my gosh, Amaya, thank you so much for that. And I think this cuts across different people on this call, whether you're just starting off your journey and just, learning, or you are a senior talent. Imposter syndrome cuts across, everyone. I've felt that before. I think the one thing you should take away from this is flip the energy. Use that to push yourselves, keep learning and improving yourself. And yes, you're going to get better at it. So thank you, Amaya, for, sharing that. All right. Now, if you are, have been here, we're going to talk about client interviews. Now, you've worked hard, you have learned the skills, you've contributed to open source projects. And don't forget that open source projects, contributing to that is experience as well. So once you have that experience, you should prepare to, get the first engagement, or if this is your second or third client, you'd want to be able to get and navigate client interviews. Now, with me on this call is Edward. Like I said, Edward has applied to 36 roles and he's working with his third Andela client. And I mean, he has done 10 plus interviews. So I would just want to ask Edward, thank you for being here. Drawing from your experience, with multiple clients, please share your key lessons. Like, how were you able to communicate value? A lot of people may be on this call and they're trying to understand what best to do with your profile, how they will get the matching team, to reach out to them. So please share, how did you do that on your profile, and how did you get, the matching team knocking at your door?
Yeah, so yeah, the first, so I don't have any script, and I'll just be as honest and blunt as possible, just because I know that a lot of people will also be experiencing the same issues, and we're going to, so I want to see how we can, how I can give more insights. Now, an example. So when I first joined, everything was like I had multiple offers. I got a job within 2 weeks in Andela. After my first engagement, I got another job within 2 weeks. And yes, we had issues. We're all aware of the issues with that happened with the recession in tech companies. And yes, it was kind of very difficult. But how did I strategize to actually work towards that? There were a lot of strategies that had to be put in place. First of all, I made so many mistakes. Now, some of those mistakes were I panicked. I was like, I need a job. I need to survive. I can't. I need money. So I was panicking, and the next thing I just started applying everywhere. It was so crazy. I even applied for a Java job. I'm a Python developer. I applied for a JavaScript job, and I was like, oh, is anybody going to? Nobody reached out to me. No matcher reached out to me. Why? Because I was applying for the wrong jobs. Now, what I noticed is that out of all the jobs I kept applying to, the only jobs I really got a 99% feedback from were the jobs I was properly qualified for. The one I took my time and said, okay, you know what? That time I'd already eaten. Like, you know what? They used to say this thing in my country. They said, before you do anything serious, try and eat first, no matter how small. So I ate properly. Then I looked at the talent network and I was like, okay, what do I need to apply? And I took my time, started scrolling. Then I saw some jobs that were great fit. I saw some Python jobs. I saw Django jobs that were really great fit to my portfolio. I looked at my CV and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I can do that. Then I applied. And one thing for the Andelas that are also veterans like myself, that have also been in Andela Network for a while and I've worked for other engagements and have good feedbacks. What I did was that I now shoot a mail. I sent a message to the matcher and I was like, hi, my name is Edward. I've been in Andela for a while. I have a very beautiful profile. I've worked with this company before. This is what I do. And this is why I feel like I'm a good fit for this particular job. And after doing that, the matcher was like, hey, hi, Edward, nice to meet you. I'm going to send your profile to the client. And I was like, oh, well, finally. And that happened. And about 2 or 3 or 4 of that actually happened. And I got an interview, and most of those interviews I prepared, but I would like to spill up the beans because of time. So I'll just allow you to keep asking me questions.
That is amazing. I think it's really great to apply for roles that fit your experience. And I know a lot of people may be in panic mode. Don't be in panic mode. Just as you said, Edward, you were able to, sell yourself. You send a message to the matcher and you're like, okay, I'm great at this. The truth is, even the platform does a good job at fitting you with the right jobs based upon your profile. So my advice to everyone on this call who's looking for the right engagement, the right client, is make good use of your professional summary, your Andela profile. Be able to tell your story just by those 4 lines to say what tools you use. Highlight your key achievements on your profile, such that once the platform does the first job by highlighting you, and then once it matches you sees your profile, they're able to tell from the get-go that yes, you're a good fit for this role because of what you've explained. Now that's just the first step. That's getting your foot in the door. I think the next step is the client interviews. You've done 10 plus interviews, and I'm sure that must have been a rigorous process. Do you share what specific strategies you use, techniques you use, and you advise for people to use as well on client interviews? How do you approach clients' requirements and expectations and ace your interview to get the job?
Yeah, so while you might be very confident at your skill set and how good you might be in the Python and Python interview, it's also safe to also note that companies are also interested in their cultural fit. They want to be sure that you culturally fit into the company. They want to be sure, yes, they believe that everybody have the skills or everybody can actually learn the skills. But one thing they can't get is somebody actually fitting into the cultural fit of the company and also moving and working with the company with the goals and mission. So one thing that is very important that I actually used as a strategy before having an interview with the company is always doing my research about the company. I go as far as checking all the company, and it's so strange how sometimes I could even, some of you might not want to use it, but sometimes I go as far as just even checking each of the executive boards or who I'll be having an interview with in the next meeting. And when I do that, I check and I noticed something. When I checked one of them's LinkedIn profile, I noticed that he had also been, the CTO had actually been writing different article about a particular machine learning structure that I have been working on in the past. And I was like, oh, wow. So that means he's really excited about this particular concept. I got to understand the concept and how he thinks as an engineer, the CTO, just by looking into his LinkedIn profile, looking at the post he has been making. Then from there, I got to start studying some of those profiles and all of that. And when we had the technical interview together, I said, I noticed you love this and that, and I'm super excited about that. I also have some previous jobs that I've done in line with this. These are the concepts I've worked on. I was like, oh, wow. You read my article. That gave an extra advantage as he was already excited and he has already forgotten to like, oh, I need to ask you more complex questions. It's not like, oh, you're my dude, you know? So, and that gave me an extra edge and I could now start talking to him and I felt really comfortable. He also felt comfortable with me. That's one step. The second step is also understanding the company's mission and vision. Understanding your company vision and mission is very important because they want to check to see if you are the right fit to move on with their futuristic 10, 5, 4, even as low as 2 years plan or milestones and quarters. So once you can do that, it helps you. And when you understand the niche at which your company is going for, it's also nice to also brainstorm in your head, like, okay, in the next future, what feature do the company currently have that they don't have now? What feature this company could have in the future? So when I'm asking questions, they're asking you, oh, Edward, so what questions do you have for us? I don't just ask, what are the next steps? I'm like, okay, I've seen your company and I feel like, have you thought about adding this particular feature to actually benefit these particular customers? And I see that this is your niche, but have you looked into expanding this niche by adding this particular feature? And this is how this feature can work out. And this is the structure I think could work out. And they're like, oh, we never thought about that. But something, and some of those companies even said, oh, it's actually part of our milestone. And that's where you're actually coming to work in. And I'm like, oh yeah, good. I'm already in line. I'm in sync with what you guys have.
Wow.
So it gives you an extra edge there. Electricity vendor. Yeah, an electricity vendor. And when I did that, that actually gave me an extra advantage because I could now gather up experiences that I've had in the past related to them. So when they ask me questions and they're like, oh, have you ever worked with a team that did this? And I was like, okay, I've worked with electricity company. This is what we did then. This is how we strategized to do this. It gives them that comfort that, okay, now when they're looking at two candidates, one of them is good, it's a Python developer, but the other one is not just a Python developer, he also has experience in their particular niche. So this makes them more comfortable and believe that they can actually strongly believe in you because you have some experience in the type of work they are doing. Now, this might just be an electricity company. You might actually be working with other companies that just look at your background, look at your experiences, look at your past, and look at how you can bring out relatable stories that can actually work with that company's goals.
That is impressive, Edward. I think we may need to get you on an interview workshop so you could share more of these strategies. But guys, please, when you're going in for an interview, it's very important to learn about the company, be able to tie your experience to what they're looking for, because that's what clients anywhere in the world would want. They want someone who has experience and who can actually fit that journey. So thank you so much, Edward, for all of those tips.
Thanks.
I mean, if there's anyone who has an interview, soon, please put that in and share feedback in the community space if Edward was able to help you in your upcoming interview. So thank you so much for that, Edward. Now, there may be some people on here. Now, you're starting off with a new client. You may not have all the experience in the world, and that's okay. Our next panelist started off his engagement not having all the box ticked, but he was able to pick up new skills. And now the client wants to clone him. And that's the feedback from the client. So if you're starting off an engagement or starting off with a client and you're looking for ways to actually improve and learn on the job, this segment is yours. So I'd love to welcome Eduardo. Eduardo, thank you for being here. I'll just love for you to introduce yourself and share what your journey was like starting off, with your current client.
Thank you, Fiji. So I joined Andela last year in November. I saw an opening that needed experience in a pretty new Android technology called Jetpack Compose. And although I had like 5 years of work experience of Android development, and I knew of Compose, I didn't have any experience working with that. But I read about the opening, and like Edward just said, I saw that I fitted there, It's just that I was missing that little thing, just a checkbox. So I reached out to the matcher. I was really transparent with both Andela and the client that I was still learning about Compose, that I didn't have experience with that. But I started studying right away, even before the matcher even responded to me. And I kept studying during the whole interview process. It was a 5-step interview process, a really long one. They even sent me a challenge to build a simple app using Compose within 2 days. It was nerve-wracking, but like by the time I was done, I had a good notion on the basics of Compose. And I was lucky that when I passed the last step of the interview was middle of December, but they only wanted me for January. So I had even more time to study. And then once I got in, I kept studying it. I read the client documentation on best practices using Compose, made sure to follow them. And once I had the basics down, then was more for demand. As I got tasks, I studied what I needed to complete the set task. I think besides transparency, the other point that I want to highlight to you guys is don't be afraid to ask questions. I was hired to be a part of the platform team. I'm supposed to support all of home-based Android engineers. And in this kind of environment, I'm aware you can't undersell yourself, right? If you are in a position of leadership, you can't undersell yourself. People need to trust you and your knowledge, but that doesn't mean you can't ask questions. That doesn't mean that you need to know everything. It's okay to ask questions to your coworkers. It's good to learn with other people. I want to leave you with you guys at least with these 2 things. Transparency, so everyone has the right expectations of you, and don't be afraid to ask questions. You don't have to know everything.
Awesome, Eduardo. That's amazing. If there's things I've picked out, just like you said, it's very important to be transparent. I know that there's a fine balance between managing imposter syndrome and also being transparent. So yes, you know you're a great fit, but being true to yourself is, be telling, the company, the client, the matchers, or whoever is interviewing you to say, I have great skills here, and I'm learning this, I'm able to deliver this, so that they're aware. I guess a lot of people face the challenge of overselling themselves and saying that, okay, this is what I can do, even when they're still learning it. And if you're able to, I think one of the great things you did was we're able to share where you are at your journey with learning that new technology. And also sharing, your knowledge in other areas that, were relevant to the client. So it's good, to keep that balance. But just before I let you go, I want to ask you, starting off with the client, how did you manage your work responsibilities? You were delivering and also you were learning on the go. How did you manage that? Because there may be people on here who would want to, learn on the go as well.
Yeah, I think that there is one thing that I'm in Brazil, right? So my time zone is a little bit different than Pacific time, the time zone of the rest of the team. And then because of it, I started working before those guys. So I had a little time for myself in the beginning of the workday, and that really helped me to set aside some time each day to actually review what I actually needed on that day. And like other panelists also said, it's really good to talk to other people. Those people that are working with you probably know a lot of that thing that you're trying to learn. And no matter your position, is really okay to talk to them and learn with them. You're going to teach some things, you're going to learn some things, and that's all part of the experience.
Awesome. Time management is key, guys. Creating that time to learn and also understanding your schedule pretty much, will help you, navigate through. And consistency, yes, that's another thing that's very important. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for that. I would love to bring Millicent on stage. Millicent started off with her client. She works on Safari with Safaricom, and she mentors junior engineers on the team. And also, you're very successful, with your client. Your client loves you. So Millicent, please tell us about, your journey, with your client and how you've managed to tutor junior engineers and also manage your work responsibilities as well.
Hello, Paige. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
All right. So you told me to share my journey. I started coding back in 2017, an Andela OG. So we started through boot camps. We went through simulations, first client, second client, and now I'm on my third client, who is Safaricom. So one thing that I have made it intentional is I communicate clearly on the things that that needs to be done, right? I understand my clients' needs very well. Once I understand that, if they have like unexpected expectations, like, hey, you can deliver this feature in the next 20 minutes, and surely, like you can't deliver the feature in the next 20 minutes, you can only deliver it within the day, then I am honest about that, and I communicate that clearly, and I give good timelines. After that, after giving good timelines, what we do is that you constantly, when you do that, you earn trust to your client, right? And establishing that trust is very important.
Very.
Yes. And then, even though the project requirements changes in the middle, just since that relationship has already been built, it creates like, hey, why are we going in this direction and not this other one? Creating understanding and empathy and understanding your client needs to set you up for success.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I could, you sharing that just goes to show how much is going on in your space. Being, I don't know, do you lead the team? Because I think you had mentioned that you lead the team at Safaricom. And I'm sure you have, very clear expectations on whatever project you're working on. How do you manage all of that? Like, I think one thing that you calls out to me is you sharing that, setting the right expectations. A lot of us are, great at saying, when a client says, oh, I would need this delivered this time, it's very important, to be honest, to say, okay, managing your workload is very important. And I think you've done a really great job at that. But how do you manage to also learn? There's so many moving pieces. You're mentoring junior engineers because obviously you're seen as a senior engineer on the team. And then you're also delivering your own piece of work. How do you balance it all out and also learn? Because you need to keep learning as well.
Yes, that's right. It's challenging, but one thing I've realized is first, be aware of yourself, right? And create good routines. Like, for example, I'm a night person, right? So since I understand myself, I'm a night person, I'll study during the night. And then during the day, I know from 8 to 5, it's strictly work, right? So that's when I put all my my head inside the work and make sure that I deliver good quality work. But now, at night, it's my own personal time to invest in myself and learn new skills, both technical and soft skills. Yeah, so understanding yourself, having good routines will really help you in that. And making sure that you understand the responsibilities that are your client has on you, and make sure that you deliver.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Millicent, for that. Like, so far, I hope you guys are enjoying this session. Our panelists have been sharing their journeys. They've been telling us, all about, how well they've been doing and things you could infuse into your journeys. Thank you so much, Millicent, for sharing, sharing that. I know that a lot of people will learn from that. Now, if we have questions, please pop it on the Q&A tab. If you have questions about, any challenge you're having right now, our panelists have been there. Lemayan has, started off from the ELC, so he can relate, to you during the Andela Learning Community. If you are currently struggling with, maybe updating your resume or your Andela profile, and also you have an upcoming interview, please ask your questions. I think our next segment is we'll take it up a notch. So if you are in the position where you are working with a client and you're a senior talent, you also need to learn and grow as you move along and thrive and succeed. There's so many things. You have a full day and lots of deliverables. There's your personal life, creating the work-life balance. It's important for you to create strategies that would help you succeed on your engagement with your clients. And who better to discuss this with than David? David actually has been working with his client for over 2 years now, just over 2 years. And you started off as an associate engineer, and now you're leading the back end team. Share with us how that has been like with your client, how you grew and how you're still succeeding with your client currently.
Thanks, Feji. So it's been an interesting 2 years. A lot has been learned, and yeah, here we are. So I think I started off as a technical engineer, but over the time, there are a few strategies that I was able to apply that helped me navigate my career path. The first one, I'd say, try to be a vocal engineer. Letting your perspective heard as an engineer be heard really helps build trust between you and the client. And this also helps give the client a better insight on the project. Maybe I can use my case as an example. The team that I'm currently working with, we majorly comprise of Andelans. So most of the technical insight comes from us. So as an engineer, if you're able to put yourself in a position where you can understand the company's ways of working, you're able to give the clients technical insights in terms of how doable something is, how feasible it is. For my case, if you're a senior, meaning you probably have juniors working under you, you should also be able to advise the business on how to manage the team's bandwidth and make sure guys are not overworked or underworked. So, and maybe the last point would be with time and effort estimation. So with deadlines are always a really tricky subject between engineers and product owners. So depending on how organized and how you've prioritized your work, having a good sorry, I lost my. I'm looking for the word to use here. But having a good, yeah. But basically,
are you going for a relationship with like the client?
Yeah, we can work with the relationship. So when you're able to give the client reasonable timelines, you're able to tell the client that, hey, look, we're able to do this much within this period of time, and the client can also help you organize and prioritize your tasks so that you're able to focus on the high value tasks. So this can really help you nurture your relationship with the clients.
Thank you so much, David. And I think you're in the best position to also, share. I think with your role and how you grew with Safaricom, from an associate engineer to now leading a team, could you just share more about like your team dynamics, who you worked with, and how you were able to earn trust, with your client that led you to this role?
Yeah, sure. So when beginning, we started a fresh new team. Many of us were very new. So that initial stage or phase was where we really need to focus on getting to understand the client's requirements, getting to learn about the client's ways of working, the systems they use and interact with. And I'd say the learning curve is definitely going to be there, but the more interest you show in what the client does, and the more you practice and use what the client use for their day-to-day work, then you're actually able to overcome the learning curve within a shorter period of time.
Very true.
Yeah,
I think you also, so sorry for cutting you short there. I think you also were advising the business at some point, and you were in this very strategic position to show your value, in terms of the type of advice and, projects that you were working on, which is really key in succeeding with, your clients. I don't know if you had any further points, to share there, or if
maybe I can just give a small example. So there was a time where we got a request from business where we needed to have 2 products done within 1 sprint, and from the way the team was currently engaged, we could only be able to deliver 1 product at the time. So being able to communicate this with the business, letting them know clearly, and they are able to know this is the bandwidth that the team currently has, and if a new task comes in and it is of a higher priority, then you can be able to then coordinate with the business and let them help you reorganize your tasks in order of their priority. So being able to give this insight to the business really helps, and you're actually able to get more value out quickly, because you won't be stuck working on no impact tasks or no impact items, and get high value items out to production as quickly as possible.
Awesome. That is really awesome. Now, for everyone on this call, if you're on an engagement or you're working with a client, it's very important to be clear. I think the delivery team will probably be able to relate to this. When clients share feedback, it's based off on what you have communicated. So during those sprint calls, stand-up calls, when, tasks have been shared, you understand your workload, you're able to share what can be delivered. So it's very important to be clear and communicate, and also, be part of the business. If you're an independent contractor, you are part of that team. So it's important that you're proactive, you're vocal, you are in a position to, share things that could, move the project forward. That way client is seeing value in your work. So it's very, very important for that. Thank you so much, David. I think we have just about 10 minutes, but I'd love to bring Millicent on the call. I'd love her to share more about, building trust. When you start off with an engagement and you start off with a client, it takes some time for you to learn the culture of the team. It takes some time for you to start understanding the team dynamics. And, trust is built over time. And Millicent, I would love for you to share if there's been any scenario where, based off on your relationship with the client, you've built, trust over time, how that has helped you, deliver on the project and, succeed on different initiatives.
Yes, building trust is very important. PG, have you asked me how you build trust, or how that trust helps you get to the next level?
I mean, you could answer both. But my question was, after building trust, how that helps you take you to the next level, pretty much.
Nice one. It's yes. So when you've already built trust, at least your work becomes easier. So if, let's say, for example, you say that the timelines have shifted, right? We won't be able to deliver this work at this specific time, since you're already a reliable person, right? So the client will believe you and cut you some slack at that point, right? And also make sure that you deliver what you say. If you say, like, it will take me 1 day from now to do that, make sure that 1 day hasn't passed. And if it does, communicate, over communicate. Yeah.
Very true. You couldn't have said it any better, Millicent. It's important that communication, happens with your client, whichever way it's going. Now, once you have a reputation for delivering excellent work, it gets better pretty much. And your delivery team is always there. So if you're working with an Andela client, the delivery team is always there to support you along your journey. If you're having any challenges, depending on workload, or you need to upskill, please reach out to your delivery partner. That's very important. Now we have loads of questions. I would love to bring all the panelists on stage so we could start answering the questions. I think first is how do you manage, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this well, I'm really sorry, Judayo has asked, how do you manage having more than one job? Now, first off, before I throw this out to, the panelists, I don't know if there's any one of you who have, managed that. Here at Andela, we always like you to prioritize, the full-time role. We have part-time roles on the platform occasionally. And so if you have a part-time role, that's great. But we always love for you to prioritize the Andela client because we want you to be as productive as possible. So I don't know if anyone wants to take a stab at this. Have you ever been in a position where you manage more than one job? I see Edward smiling, so I don't know if you can relate to that.
I can't hear Edward.
Yeah, we can. I'm not sure what's happening. Can we?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
now
hear
we can.
you.
Okay, cool. So sometimes it can be very tricky, to be very honest. It can be very, very tricky. But the most important thing I have learned so far is transparency. Always be transparent with both clients. Always share your schedules where necessary. Because the tricky part is where you actually have clashing meetings. And these meetings will be very important sometimes because if you have planning meeting in two planning meetings crashing together, you would miss out a lot. So it's also good to have a very good time management standard. Basically for me, I always have my own special Asana project board. Now your clients have theirs, but you also need to have yours. Now you overlap like 5 hours, or you overlap depending on the overlap you have with your client. You also have your own spare time where you get to work on your own route. So what I basically do is that I create my own Asana, and after creating my own Asana, I create my own workload. Looking at the priority, you have all the priority tasks from each client. So you bring those priority tasks together and you ask yourself, what am I going to do today? Then you put, according to the priority, you put all the tasks that you would work. Arrange it properly, arrange your breaks so you don't burn out, and also arrange it to do and all of that. And if I can assure you that if you do it this way, it keeps you not just also, it makes you healthy, at the same time, it also allows you to still have that great performance with your client. Don't forget to also rest when necessary, because you would burn out.
Very, very true. Also, I would just like to, continue on that train of thought, Edward. We have someone who's an anonymous attendee who has said they've interviewed for a senior role and they could not get it. They gave their profile to the hiring manager for a mid-level role. And they didn't ask any questions about Symphony. Like, how do you prepare for roles that, you're very great at, but they don't ask questions about the areas where you're most proficient with? Like, how do you show value during the interview and that you're the right person for the job?
Yeah, so this has always been the exciting part of every interview, because imagine you've learned, we've always been in that situation, even in university, where we've read a particular topic and we're just like, the lecturer brings up a different topic entirely and we're like, I wish I actually read this topic. But the worst part about exams is that you cannot bring out those ones you read. But the best unique thing about interviews is that you can, and it depends on the mind game you play. Now, imagine they ask you a question. So, Edward, tell me about how would you create a performance, or how would you optimize this particular function? And I'm like, yeah, you would answer the question. Then after answering the question, you stylishly said, aside performance, you can also talk about OOP. I've actually worked with OOP in the past. I've done this, I've done that. I start bringing out everything. And the client is like, oh, and do you know the best part about it? The client would now start asking you questions based on those things, those stuffs you just added. So, oh, you talked about OOP. Oh, we do work with OOP. So how did you manage to do this? And you're just spilling out everything. And you're like, finally, now I can get to tell you exactly everything. And you tell them every single thing about your technical experience. And you would not know, stylishly, you've indirectly just told them how good you are. And then the questions they might not have, asked, or they might just have a planned question that might not showcase your skill. It just shows you off immediately.
All right, Edward, thank you so much for that answer. And we have just a few minutes to take a few questions. I'd love to ask Eduardo this next one. Linda is asking, how best can we reach out to ask for help from fellow team members? Are there any best practices we can follow? And Eduardo, I'm asking you this based off on, starting off, learning on the engagement. What best practices did you take during the time when you started out?
Yeah, I think that one thing to always have in mind is you shouldn't be asking the things that are super basic, because you were hired for a position that demands you to have that particular skill, right? So it's better to try on your own before asking anything. So you try on your own, you study for yourself, you try to answer your own question. And when you're gonna ask the question, you can already show, hey, I've done this, that, and this other thing. Nothing worked, but I tried all of this. This is important. I think, have you ever asked a question on Stack Overflow? When you're gonna go to Stack Overflow to ask a question, they have something they are saying, hey, how do better ask a question on Stack Overflow? That you should take that for life. You shouldn't ask something before you try it yourself, before you rack your brain. I know that it's easier to ask a question because you know that answer will come in 1 minute. And you're gonna why am I going to spend 2 hours on something that in 1 or 2 minutes, the more experienced developer will tell me? I think this experience of researching things and trying for yourself, this is the learning experience, way more than asking the question itself. So try it for yourself first and ask later. I think that's the best practice that you should always have.
Thank you so much, Eduardo. Now we have just 1 minute, and I'm just going to try to speed through 2 questions. Edward, I'm going to ask you this second question after Lemayan, and it's talking about, setting rates. You recently just joined Transparent Energy, and this person is talking about, how a new Andelan will set, rates based off on, the tech space industry standards. So I'll come back to you. But Lemayan, I'm going to ask you this. Umar is sharing, his experience on the Q&A box, and he said his problem is he doesn't feel job ready yet. Some job posting requirements, requires knowledge on DevOps, which he's not yet familiar with. How does he know when he's fully job ready?
Oh, yes, that's a very interesting question. So, how do you know when you're fully job ready? Actually, the right answer is you don't. You have to put your best foot forward. What do I mean put your best foot forward? Is it takes time for you to feel like, yes, this is the job I'm supposed to conquer or overcome, or this is my role. You need to understand that nobody is 100% perfect. And the moment you feel like I am 100% ready, most often than not, you'll be late. So just take on, if you feel like this job, I have at least 90% of the skill set. I have this 10% that I'm not comfortable, but I am willing to learn on the job. Then in that case, you are a fit for that job. You are predominantly a fit. Yes, so I'll just pass it back because of time, yeah.
Yes, Eduardo has already shared all about, starting off, engagements, feeling the fear, but you need to plan and start off learning way before you start off that client engagement. And Edward, I'd love you to close this out. I know we needed more time. I'm really sorry, but Edward, do you want to share tips on, setting your rates basically in tech industry?
Oh, yeah, sure. So when you're getting started in setting your rates, it's always very important to look at your skill set, look at your growth pattern. For me personally, if I see a job because as a tech personnel, we learn on the job. And when we see an opportunity to actually grow in a particular job, let's assume I got a team lead position. There's an opportunity for a team lead position that I might be looking at. I would definitely want to reduce my rate a little to get a better chance of getting that job. But basically, I would just like to say, we all know our limits. We all know the minimum we can actually go for. Now, there are a lot of us that actually, we know that our minimum or our basic needs can actually be, let's for an example, $3,000 a month or 4,000 or 5,000. That would definitely take care of every single thing we need to do personally in our lives, right? But we've done some jobs like even 200% higher, right? But the truth is that when you see, especially with this recession, and you've seen how things are going, it's always advisable to know the room, understand the room, and don't cut yourself too short, but try to drop down, get into the workforce first. And trust me, if you can show so much high performance. I think I was in a particular job where I did ask for an increment after 1 year, and it actually happened. And yeah, so I think it would be nice to actually just understand the room, know the minimum you can go for, and work with that.
Thank you so much, Edward. And thank you to our amazing panelists. This session, I think the next time we do this, we probably would do an hour, 30 minutes, because I mean, we have gone through, I don't even know how an hour has, expired. Like it's great. We will be having this session every quarter. We were bringing amazing Andelans like this, Eduardo, Edward, Lemaya, and David, and Millicent. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for sharing your journey. The recording will be shared, an hour after this call. And yes, please, this power in community, please reach out to people, keep learning and growing, and we'll see you next time. Thank you guys for being here. Have a good rest of the day. Bye, guys.